Guys, just in case you don't know, and we haven't said this before, but watching Laymen Gaming actually gives you rock hard abs, right? So if you watch 6 minutes of Laymen Gaming every day, you're going to get rock hard abs. Laymen Gaming 6-minute abs.
You sure about that, man? I don't think so.
Anyway, the other thing, our scientists finally came back to us. The researchers concluded, and we can confirm that watching Laymen Gaming every day also increases your performance in the sack. Last longer in bed thanks to Laymen Gaming. It's a fact.
I haven't experienced that.
Finally, I can also confirm that PewDiePie will be on our show next week. He's going to be hanging out here on the Laymen casting couch. We're going to be playing some Bitch Lasagna Beat Saber. He'll be here, so tune in next week for that.
I don't think that's true. I think, what happens when people realize that this is all not true? Like, aren't they going to be annoyed? Like, that's the thing.
What we do, right? What we do is we just go silent. We don't say anything. We don't do anything.
We promise things.
Yes.
And then we don't actually deliver them.
And then we just go silent.
It's
like
genius.
it. This message brought to you by Sean Murray of No Man's Sky. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, this is one hell of a story today. It was, we had a beautiful one yesterday with G2A. Go and check that out. We'll leave a link in the description below. We were thinking, guys, what could be more juicy than that this week? And we're thinking that's probably the best story we'll see this week.
Totally. And then we thought, Fallout 76, Anthem, No Man's Sky, it's all just thrown together to be a giant meme, and we love memes.
It is really just like clickbait bingo with this one, really. We've got Fallout 76, Anthem, Sea of Thieves, and No Man's Sky, all in one beautiful thumbnail.
We just need lawbreakers. That's all we need.
Every YouTuber's just like salivating, like, you know? So look, here's the deal, right? No Man's Sky came out, Jesus, was it like 2016 now?
Ooh, it's a while.
It's a while, I can't remember. But
it was a giant meme for a long time. Let's face it, a lot of things were promised, multiplayer.
Fun game.
Will the game be fun? Yes.
Whoa, that is a fucking lie.
Fun game, the coming of Jesus, there's going to be Wookiees in it. They were like, I was expecting absolutely everything in this game. It comes out, everyone knows that it was the biggest lie in gaming history.
I think it's definitely up there as one of the biggest, most deceptive games ever released.
It is, yeah. I mean, Destiny's 2 marketing was pretty damn good, but this, this takes the cake.
Destiny 2 wasn't really a lie. It just wasn't a particularly great game.
It looked like it was going to be the biggest game ever.
No. This is different. This is like, you can do anything. Like, literally, Sean Murray would go on interviews, and they'd be like, people would be like, oh, looks like you can pretty much do anything in this game. And Sean Murray's like, yeah.
Are you a liar?
Yeah.
Do you have any remorse?
No.
Is there a single thing people would be most disappointed with in this game?
No. You will have many.
Will you be selling your own bathwater?
The main things that didn't make it into the game that were promised were, like obviously this infinite universe, which was meant to be really beautiful and striking. The reality was that it was weird and buggy and looked awful most of the time.
Weird animals just walking around, obviously just thrown together by the guy that made friggin', what's his name? The scientist. Oh my god, the guy that made the bolts in his head. Can't believe I'm forgetting this. Yes! Wow. So, I can't believe I forgot that. But that's what the animals looked like, but also multiplayer. Multiplayer was nice.
Yeah, they said the multiplayer was a thing in the game, and then they had to take it off the box, and then basically players were like, hey man, I'm here in the same place as this other guy. Yeah. Why can't we see each other? Even though Sean Murray said you could do that, Sean Murray continued to lie and said, oh, the servers are playing up. And then later on was just like, oh yeah, multiplayer's not a thing. Well, I guess we'll implement that later, LeMayo. Like,
yep.
Will you be able to play with your friends? Yeah.
Whoa, that is
really bad. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole list of features that weren't in the game. But overall, the promise was that this was going to be a genre-defining, genre-enlarging space sim, the likes of which we've never seen before. Yep. And what it was just a really boring-ass sandbox that was broken and unfinished.
It was the biggest lie that we've never seen before. So he did definitely promise on the whole never-seen-before stuff. But look, if there's anybody in the industry, I think, to take advice from in terms of delivering or talking about things in the game or about the game, it's Sean Murray, everybody.
So the reason that Sean Murray feels like he can dispense advice at this point is because after the No Man's Sky next update, the game was doing pretty well. Speaking at the Develop conference in Brighton, UK, Sean Murray took to the stage as part of the keynote panel or whatever, And he started talking about how they got the game from the original launch product to No Man's Sky Next, which was released, last year?
Yep.
And very well received update. You know, like it added all the features essentially that were promised at launch but weren't delivered. And everyone agrees that, No Man's Sky is actually in a pretty decent state now. I don't personally enjoy the game.
Not my kind of game.
But I recognize that it's a good game for those people that do like that sort of thing. And, props to Hello Games for getting it to the point where it was completely shit and not a thing to being an actual finished game.
I like things to look nice and be finished and stuff, and I can't bear not to see that generally,
I think the way that he handled that transition, though, was not the way to do it.
Yeah, he actually starts talking a lot about the challenges that he faced in communication.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to get really slimy, and we start to remember, like, Sean Murray is a real douchebag,
Yeah,
okay?
totally.
So let me just read you some of these quotes, because they're pretty astounding when you start digging into them, okay? Let's begin. So, trying to explain how it all got away from him. This is actually a true thing that he said. Get this. You don't realize as a developer that you're talking to millions of people when you do something like E3. And most people who buy your game have only ever seen one video, and they've probably only ever seen 30 seconds of it.
Okay, look, I mean, if I've ever heard some bullshit, if I've ever heard someone that pretends that he doesn't know, it'd be different if you played a few casual games. You know what? Even a person that played a decent amount of COD knows probably what E3 and knows what it is. The head of a development company knows exactly what E3 is, knows exactly how many people are tuning in, knows exactly the reach he has. Full of shit,
Imagine
everybody.
getting us up on stage in E3 and thinking, not many people are going to watch this. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's probably just this crowd of people, and maybe my mum at home, she'll be watching as
Yeah,
well.
hi,
I'll
Mum.
send her a VHS recording of it. You know what I mean? Like,
It's like a YouTuber being like, I'm just surprised that people tuned in to YouTube and it blew me away that so many people actually watch YouTube.
It's like when I talk
Bitch,
into
please, you know what's going on here.
when I talk into a camera and then upload my video on YouTube, people watch it. What's up with that?
It's
so
really
weird.
crazy, everybody.
Can you do this?
Yes.
Whoa. Fucking lie.
He goes on to say, it's very hard to tell the difference between you talking excitedly about the game because you're excited and the people you're talking to are excited, and you're talking about development, and that's what we're all used to doing. So what he's essentially saying here is that, he just got carried away in all of his communication. Not only did he not realize that he was accidentally speaking to millions of people when standing up on a stage at E3, but when he's being interviewed by Colbert's excited about the game, he's excited about the game, so of course you say you can do absolutely anything in the game.
It's such a passing of the responsibility of I was just so passionate about talking about the game. Mate, no, you knew exactly what you were doing, I think. I think this whole oh my god, I was just so silly. Oh,
Yeah.
Lies, everybody. This is all lies.
This is the problem with Sean. He's a very slimy dude.
He
right?
is.
Let's
He's
be
a slimy
real.
dude, and this is exactly what this is. This is more of him being slimy. He's gone through the phase now of just being completely shat on by the industry. He's made a decent product. He's looking back now and going, cool, how do I repair the previous Sean Murray and make it look like it was all part of this big thing of me just being excited and being dumb about the whole thing? Bullshit, everybody. Bullshit.
Can you purposefully destroy a planet?
A little bit.
Then name the system.
He then goes on to make some really obnoxious comments about games journalism and games development, and our understanding as consumers about how games are made. This is what he said. Murray suggests a disconnect between the journalists that developers talk to, who are generally well versed in the industry and the way games are made, and the people who are likely to buy the finished product. In our heads, we always think, and still do, when I'm talking to press, I feel like, well, I'm talking to you, who completely understands how game development works. Murray added, it kind of kills me that we don't see that much of that anymore in terms of journalism these days. In terms of games journalism, where people talk freely and educate people about games development and how it works and what's going on behind the scenes. There's a disconnect there. Clearly to us, it's obvious that some features are working and some aren't, and some things we tend to do work out and some things don't. We've cut out this feature and we've put this cool one back in. We're just going back and forth like this, and again, it's just a handful of people making our game. So what he's essentially saying here with this also slimy statement is this idea that we as consumers don't understand how games development works. So when he says, oh, there'll be multiplayer, what he's really saying is that maybe there'll be multiplayer. And if we as consumers understood the intricacies of games development, we might know that there might actually be no multiplayer at launch. That's on us to know that difference.
I get it now. You know what? Sean is the victim here, everybody. This is what's going on here. I feel bad for Sean. He's just trying to make a game, people, and lie through the process.
Right.
Cut the guy a break.
Is Earth in this game?
There's a Burger King.
So this is where Sean segues now to him impart his advice to other struggling games. And he actually specifically references Anthem and Fallout 76 here, and he also mentions Microsoft, which means he's probably referencing Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
All three games had absolutely disastrous launches, and the reason for that was because the games were completely unfinished.
They were empty,
messes
barren wastelands, just
Totally.
like No Man's Sky.
Just destroying the entire live service promise permanently, pretty much. No
Sure.
one will trust that idea ever again as a result of these three games and others,
of course.
But like, certainly they were three perpetrators. And what he basically says is this. And I can see EA or Microsoft or whoever try to placate players by talking to them, and for right or wrong, it just doesn't really work. He said, we probably did the right thing. And what he was referring to was the fact that No Man's Sky and Hello Games had a total media and community blackout where they didn't speak to anyone for months on end and just worked on their game so they could eventually ship the update. And they have this philosophy whereby you push out the content, and that's how you make your players happy and shut them up.
That's the form
by
of
not
communication.
talking to them. That's his form of communication.
Yeah.
Don't talk, don't make promises, just do.
But look,
okay?
What he's ultimately saying there is that you can create communication through the game, and it has to be a choice. It has to be like you can talk to the player or
Correct.
just make content.
Correct.
The only way I think you can really do that is actually, of course, doing both.
Yeah.
If we look at Destiny, for instance, like, yes, it ended up in a really good place now, but if we look at the times where they just completely went radio silent when the content wasn't really great, that had a fundamental effect on the brand, on the game itself, on the community, on the people that stuck around, the people that did not stick around, you know?
For sure.
And I think that that's a perfect example of this whole, like, if you don't talk to your players, you know, there's another route to the other side and everything works out. Well, no, I don't actually think it all works out, because along the way you've done some really, really big damage.
Yeah, I agree.
know?
Like, you know, and I think the example, like Final Fantasy 14 is very instructive, whereby, you know, they obviously had to like and I say that now because I'm playing the game, they had to rebuild their game in the past because it was such a catastrophe. And what they did while they were doing that was they were speaking to their community about what was coming soon, and they were really transparent about that. And then they also, in the background, had much larger ambitions of like basically relaunching the entire game. And they kept those plans secret until much closer to launch, when they were confident about the release date and it was all going to happen, etc. So my point is that this idea that Sean sets up of this false choice between doing work or speaking is bullshit. And I think contemporary community management in the live service environment for a game that exists in 2019 and beyond has to be as much about an honest, transparent relationship with your community as it is about the game. Now, and the perfect example of this is Anthem. Like, why the fuck would I saddle up for Anthem at this point? I have no idea if Anthem is going to be here tomorrow. I have no idea if EA are going to completely drop it like a rock, because they're not talking to us.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So maybe in a month's time, they release some fantastic update. It's the best game ever. But I have no connection with that developer, no trust in that developer, no trust that after that one big update, the next month after that, they go silent again, then I have no idea what's going on. So trust isn't just like a, hey, we've dropped this cool thing for you. It's about being honest and transparent and communicating freely.
Definitely. And I think that, you know, if we're at the start of the life cycle of live services, then like maybe this is something that they want to test out. But like, this is a tried and tested model now in terms of live service has been around for a long time. You know, I reject this whole Sean Murray idea more than ever, because, you know, there's so many games that have come and tarnished the live service. It is now more than ever the time to always talk with your community.
Yeah.
Always talk with the people that have bought the game, invested time into it. You know, this whole idea of just going radio silent is just, it's more than unethical. It's like, dude, it's kind of criminal. It's like you're expecting people to pay $70, $80, and then you're actively trying to not talk to them because you're like, I want to communicate through the content. Well, you're not even telling them about what content's coming. It's more than unethical. And when I hear this from Sean Murray, it just folds into like, he is such a slimy dude, because he's like, let's just actively try and not talk because we might get some bad feedback. Well, dude, you totally deserve that bad feedback.
And look, again, just to be super clear, he's just a false economy of choice he creates, where it's like, obviously we want developers to work hard and put out good content for us, obviously.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean they need to be silent while they're doing it. So, it's not like, well, he put out a good update, so it's proof that his model works. he would have put out a good update anyway, and at the same time would have also been with his community and built that relationship. And that's sort of what I'm talking about.
Totally.
That's what we're talking
and
about.
I think it's
that's where it
damaging.
needs to land.
What I'm saying is he is a pretty big dude now in the industry. It is damaging for him to be putting these ideas out there to other development and other publishers. Being like, hey, you know, like this worked for me. Well, it didn't work for you. I still think it's kind of a bit of a meme. And I think a lot of people out there will never trust games that you put out. But, you know, to put these ideas out there, so many other developers might look at this and go, cool, let's do this too. And then we create this further divide now between devs and publishers and consumers, where already there is a bit of a divide in a lot of genres right now.
Big time.
You know?
But anyway, look, this has been a long video, but we wanted to talk about it because Sean Murray, slimy meme dude, he should go work for G2A, right? He would do very well there.
Or EA, G2A, EA, it all just fits together.
Sean has EA in his name.
Wow.
Can't spell.
Holy shit, this
can't
is a
spell Sean
conspiracy.
without EA.
This is crazy.
The Illuminati confirmed.
Your pixels on, your pixels on, your pixels on, your pixels on.